Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's workshop. My name is Richard, and I'm so excited you were able to take time out of your busy schedule to gain some new insight and skills for your next project. Today, I will be guiding you on how to install a ceiling fan. Now, putting a ceiling fan up can be a great addition to almost any home, but they are also really great for energy efficiency. Before we get started, let me mention the overview for today. We will begin with the planning portion of this project, specifically what you need to know before you begin your ceiling fan install. We're going to review some of the tools that you're going to need for the installation. As well, I'm going to give you a step-by-step walkthrough of the installation process and wiring of your new ceiling fan. Now, for additional information, HomeDepot.com has several videos on ceiling fans and their installations. In the related content area below on your screen, you'll find a downloadable resource guide with many links and videos of what we will be discussing today. So let's get started. The very first part of any ceiling fan install should be the planning. So before you even begin shopping, you're going to want to ask yourself a couple of questions. Are you replacing an existing ceiling fan? Or are you putting a ceiling fan where maybe there used to be a light fixture? Is the area that you're putting that ceiling fan up indoors or outdoors? Now, I know that seems a little silly, but even if it's a covered porch or a screened-in porch, that may be considered an outside area if it's subject to all of the humidity, moisture, rain, and even potential snow. So even though it might be covered, it's still outside. Now, you can put an outdoor fan inside, but you cannot put an indoor fan outside. It's just not going to stand up to the elements. You also want to take into consideration how high are your ceilings? Are your ceilings sloped at all? How big of a fan are you going to need for your given room? Do you need a remote control for that fan? What about a light kit? Is there one included on the fan, or do you want to add one to your fan? These are all things that you're going to want to take into consideration before you even go out shopping. It's really important to choose the right size fan, not only for aesthetically, but like I said earlier, if you want to help with that energy efficiency, you're going to want to have the right fan for your room. Talking about size, the best way to determine the right size for your fan is by measuring your room. You're going to want to get the square footage of your room. Go ahead and measure the length and the width of the room. Multiply those two numbers and you will get the square footage of your room. Here are some references for fan sizes depending on the square footage of your room. Let's start with something small, 75 square feet. That's about, you're going to need a fan about 29 to 36 inches. This is more or less a small bathroom, right? Now let's get a little bit bigger, 76 to 144 square feet. Then you're going to need a fan that's 36 to 42 inches in diameter. We're talking bedrooms, small kitchens. Let's take it one step more. 145 to 225 square foot. We're talking 44 to 50 inches in diameter. These are your standard bedrooms, your living rooms. Now we're getting into the bigger ones, okay? 226 to 400 square feet. Now you're talking 50 to 60 inches. These are large living rooms or master bedrooms. Anything over 400 square feet, that's 60 inches or larger in diameter, and we're talking about open concept spaces. And you have the possibility here to add two fans to better distribute the airflow. Now, when I mention the inches, we're talking about the kind of the diameter of all the blades across from one end to the other. If you're like me and have ever stared up, right, at a fan while it's spinning, you notice it creates a circle. That's the diameter and the measurement we are speaking about. If you notice between the sizes we mentioned, we have about 6 to 8 inches of range to choose from. This is more for aesthetics and preference. Do you like how a 42-inch or a 46-inch looks in your space? All you need to know is that your square footage demands this size. Anything in between is going to provide you the energy efficiency that you are looking for. Another thing that you may want to consider if you have a really big or long room is installing two fans in that space, like we mentioned earlier. You can go for a smaller fan instead of having one large 52-inch fan. You might be able to put in two 36 or 40-inch fans, kind of give you a little bit more of that zone cooling. With the size of the fan determined, another important factor is how much airflow does the fan have. All fans in their packaging will show an illustration of what's called CFM, as you can see right here, okay? CFM, which stands for cubic feet per minute. The higher the number, the more airflow the fan will give off. This is important, especially for larger rooms, which need that extra power to circulate the air around it. Now, for the most part, the larger the fan size, the higher airflow is as well. So when making your decision, first select the size fan you desire, and while searching for a fan of that specific size, you can also be on the lookout on how much CFM that specific fan will do. The next thing that we really need to talk about is how it's going to be installed. And there's a couple of different installation methods that you're going to want to take into consideration, like your ceiling height. That's going to make a big difference. Your fan blades should rest about 8 to 9 feet above the floor. Now, if you have really high ceilings, you're not going to be able to use that standard kit when you're installing the fan. You're going to need an adapter for this. What you're going to need is what's called a down rod. Now, most of your standard fans will come what is known as a down rod installation, and they'll come with a 6-inch down rod. That's more or less of the standard size. Some of them may come with a 6 or up to a 12-inch down rod. But if you have really high ceilings, like 12 feet ceilings, and you want those fan blades to be between that 8 and 9 feet above the floor, that sweet spot, you may need to get a downward extension kit, okay? These kits come anywhere from 6 inches all the way up to 60 inches. You can also get them in a variety of finishes to match the fan that you have chosen, like I have here, okay? This one is a 36 extension rod, and it's in the color of like a stainless steel, brushed stainless steel, okay? This is just an example. They go all the way up to 60 inches, okay? Now, the standard down rod installation, if you have to add a longer down rod, you're going to notice that the wiring is just not long at all, right? The one that comes with the fan, the wiring will not be as long as you need it, right? If I'm going to add a 36-inch extension like I just showed, that's not going to work with the wiring that comes with the fan. But that's okay, because we also sell wire extension kits, okay, that you can get just in case you need to wire a longer down rod like you would if you were to install the 36-inch one. Now, the next thing you need to consider is your ceiling sloped? Now, most of the standard ceiling fan hangers will accommodate a slope of up to about 18 degrees. Now, if you don't know what the slope is, it's really easy calculation. You can find a slope calculator online. That'll tell you exactly what the slope is, just with a couple of easy measurements. But if the slope to your ceiling is bigger than 18 degrees, maybe 18 to 20 degrees, you're going to need to find an adapter for that installation. It's a mounting adapter for specific sloped ceilings, right? And they'll be able to handle a lot larger of a degree of slope if you have that in your house. With having sloped ceilings, you will have to consider the size of the down rod, correct, right? You're going to need a longer down rod to account for that sloped ceiling. You will want to make sure that your fan blades are at least 18 inches away from the wall. And again, you can find these numbers online, but usually if you have about 14 to 18 degrees of slope, you're going to want to have a minimum of a 12-inch down rod. If you're talking 22 to 26 degrees, you may need an 18-inch down rod. You definitely want to consider that, because you would hate to be up there in the middle of your installation and then realize you need a longer or another down rod. Now, the final mounting type that we really want to talk about is what's called a flush mount or a hugger installation. I like hugs, right? This is for older or smaller homes that have shorter ceilings. If your ceiling is only about 8 feet, or maybe even a little bit less, you're going to want to really look at a flush mount or a hugger fan. You might be able to get away with a standard down rod installation on an 8-foot ceiling if you're not installing a light kit. But if you have very tall family members or friends, or if you want to add that light kit, you're definitely going to want to look for a flush mount fan. That's going to keep it really close up tight to the ceiling so that you don't have to worry about any excess space hanging down. All right, a couple other things we need to discuss, okay? And we need to consider. You've picked that perfect fan. What tools are you going to need in order to hang it? Now, the good news is you really don't need anything major or exotic or any type of specialty tool to hang up your ceiling fan. It's really some very basic tools. The tools that you really want to make sure you have is a manual screwdriver. Now, you can use a power screwdriver, but you may also want to have some manual screwdrivers. Now, you're definitely going to need a good pair of wire strippers. You also want to have wire nuts or wire caps. Many of your ceiling fans today come with these already in the package, so no worries there. I absolutely recommend 100% you use this. This is going to be your most secure method of wiring your ceiling fan. Keeping the wires together and standing up to that motion and vibration. A couple of optional things you can use that I think are really a great idea, okay? You may want to have a non-contact voltage tester, one like this. Remember, we always talk about safety first, okay? That non-contact voltage tester, when you turn it on and you put it around the area, if it's green, you're good to go. If it's red, it's a no-no, okay? Now, when you're installing any kind of electrical device, like a light fixture, a ceiling fan, you're gonna wanna turn off the electricity at the breaker and not only at the switch. This is just kind of like an extra insurance policy, okay? The last little piece that you may need is electrical tape. Now, if you're not going to use the wire nuts, you are absolutely going to need electrical tape. This is just another extra layer of safety. You can wrap the wire nuts in addition with the electrical tape. But if you're not using wire nuts, okay, you've got to use electrical tape. This is one of those situations where there is just no substitution. You can't use painter's tape or masking tape or even duct tape, okay? Those are not rated for electricity and can actually cause a fire hazard. In addition to those hand tools that you need, you're also going to need a ladder. Ladder safety is super important too. The biggest thing I could point out here is make sure you have the right size ladder, okay? You should never be on the top step of your ladder, okay? So if you have a really high ceiling, you're going to need a pretty tall ladder because you should always go around within 2 to 3 steps of the top of the ladder. The final thing that we really need to talk about are going to be our electrical boxes. All right, so here we have an example of electrical boxes that you're going to find in your ceiling, okay? This one specifically is called a saddle box. The reason why it's called a saddle box is because it saddles on the ceiling joist. So if you haven't figured it out, we have a little prop here that is imitating your ceiling. It's in this fashion. Obviously, your ceiling would be in this fashion, but we're just giving you a better look at it. So again, the saddle box is going to be sitting on top of your joist and it is screwed in directly into the joist. This gives you that firm hold that you're looking for your ceiling fan. Because remember, your ceiling fan will vibrate and it has motion on it. So it's important that the box that's in the ceiling is fan rated. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. Now, This saddle box, I really like it a lot as well because the beauty of this, it has all this cavity here on the side, it's open. So when you're installing the wiring of your fan, this is a great location to put in all of that excess wiring, okay? Because you will have that. I want to show you this mounting bracket will come with all of your fans that you purchase. This mounting bracket is what goes mounted on these boxes. This is where the fan's going to go and all the wiring is going to go, okay? Now, that's the saddle box. In difference, the one on the bottom is called a shallow box, okay? Not much space here. Remember, you're going to have your wiring coming out of the ceiling, and then you only have this little bit of space to put in and tuck in all that wires. So if you're able to, go ahead, replace that shallow box out and replace it for a saddle box. Just remember, always make sure it's fan rated. You can ask any of our associates at the store to show you fan rated ceiling boxes, okay? Now, we have the shallow box, which as you can see, it is attached to the joist. So as you can see, these electrical boxes are directly installed into your joist. Now, you don't want your fan to be on that joist because it's not the middle of the room. You want it to be in the middle of the room, but it's going to be in the drywall. So imagine this is the drywall. You went ahead and you drilled out the hole. Now you noticed, wait a minute, Richard, there's a hole there. Where am I going to attach this guy into that hole? Okay. That's where this fellow comes around. It's called the ceiling support box. This is just one part of it, okay? This is going to act like a brace, and it's going to go in between your ceiling joists in this manner. So imagine, again, this is your drywall. You're going to go ahead, insert. Make sure you don't have huge hands because it's going to be a little bit difficult to do this. But you're going to go ahead, insert the brace, and you're going to start to turn it. If you need to open it up a little bit more before you do this, go ahead and do that. But once you start turning it, you're going to notice that the hinges, right, these clips on the sides, they start to expand. And they're going to make a lot of pressure against those ceiling joists. And that's going to offer you a great support for that new fan that you want to install, okay? Now you're asking, wait a minute, there's something missing here. Yes, there's a couple of more parts. So let's go ahead and give you an example of that's gonna look like. After you install the support, you have your clip. Again, make sure you got small hands. If you got big hands, you're gonna have a problem here, okay? So grab your clip. Now remember, in my case, if it falls all the way down. But in your case, if you're doing this and the clip falls out of your hands, don't worry. It's just going to fall on the ceiling, right? And you're going to be able to move it around and grab it. So clip installed. Now you're going to go ahead and put on the box. Here's your box, okay? You line it up. Let's see if I can get this on the first try. You're going to want to line up the screw holes just like that, okay? And the kit is also going to bring some, I think these are called not just nuts, but these are specific types of nuts that they can withstand vibration. Okay, they're locking nuts, I think they're called. So get your locking nut. You're going to go ahead. You can hand tighten it first, just like this. And then you'd go ahead and come back with the specific ratchet size that you need for that specific box and go ahead and tighten it down. Okay. Now remember, all of this, you're going to be doing it while you're on a ladder. So make sure you are not on the top step of your ladder. This is all safety here. Now let's go ahead and tighten this a little bit more. A little bit more, there you go. And now you have an electrical box installed in your drywall in the middle of your room, okay? Which is perfect because I know in some situations, if you have a little bit of OCD, you want it in the center of your room, this is gonna be your best shot to do it. Now, really important, when you are selecting electrical boxes, like we mentioned earlier, you have to make sure they are fan supportive boxes. Now, how are you going to know that? Most of the time, the ones that are rated for fans are metal, but there are plastic ones that are now considered fan rated. How are you going to know this? For instance, here's an example. Here's a plastic electrical box, and you see the red label on the bottom. That is saying that it's fan supported. It supports the weight of the fan and the vibration of the fan. Coming into these boxes, there's a term that you're going to be hearing which is called remodel and new construction when you look at these boxes. Let me give you an example. So here you have that support box that we installed. Here's the box. This one's for new construction. What does that mean? That means you don't have drywall in your house. All you see are the studs and the joists. That's new construction. What does that allow you to do? That allows you to install these type of boxes or this type of support box, okay, directly into the joists, which gives you the max hold, okay? And then, but you're gonna say, well, wait a minute, Richard, my house is new, but I don't have it in studs, I don't have it in joists. Okay, no problem. Now, remodel, what it means, and this prop is an example of a remodel. Remember, imagine this being your drywall on your ceiling. The remodel version, obviously, you don't want to rip out your drywall and try to put in the support box directly into the joist with screws. You don't want to do that. So you can use the remodel version, which is basically like we showed you earlier. You put in the support box, you twist the handle, and what happens is at the edge of these two clips, you have teeth. And these teeth are going to press against those joists and hold it there firmly. Now, a little secret is if you're working on your ceiling and you have a second floor, if it's an attic, right, access, then this is going to be even easier because you can go through the attic and install this from top down. But now if you're in between floors, then this is your perfect solution for that type of installation. Now, with the electrical boxes all sorted out, let's get to installing that ceiling fan. All right, so the next step is we're going to be installing the ceiling fan. But before we do that, one of the most important things you want to do is read your instruction manual. Even though most ceiling fans are more or less installed the same way, some fans have specific details in their installation. Today, we're going to be speaking about what we have in front of us or the parts that this fan brought, okay? So here we go. This fan motor assembly, as you can see, at the same time brings your lighting kit or your LEDs, which are already included inside of that full fan motor assembly. Now on the bottom, this is just the light cover that you're going to find for the bottom part of that fan motor assembly. Here you have the down rod that brings the kit. Remember those 6-inch down rods? This is your 6-inch down rod, okay? This fan actually brings that extension kit if you need it, if you were to use a longer down rod. So that's a really great benefit. Apart from that, with the down rod, you're going to have what's called a cotter pin. This just holds it in place. And you have your hanger ball, which this will be connected to the mounting bracket to hold it up in the ceiling. You're going to see that pretty soon. So moving on, now you're going to be looking at the canopy. This is the piece that goes up against the ceiling. With this goes the canopy cover, which will go here to more or less hide any screws or any of the sort. And then you have your coupling cover. This is going to be going right on top of that fan assembly so that it covers any internal pieces like wires or anything like that. The brown piece here is your control module. Okay, this is what's going to be used when you're using a remote control like this one. This is what's going to be activating the fan to go low, medium, high, or even in reverse or normal, which we're going to be talking about that later as well. Now this fan brings a pretty neat little accessory. We're going to show this later on also in our install. This is basically for you to put on top of your switch. So how this works is you have your normal light switch. It's going to be enclosed in here, and you can put, it's always going to be on, and then you can just simply put the remote control on top of that. It's going to be covering it all the time. More information on that later on while we go. Again, this is the mounting bracket. This is what's going to go to your electrical box and what's basically going to be holding your fan in place. Apart from that, we have some electrical pieces. We got screws, we got the different electrical connectors that we're gonna need. So this fan pretty much brings everything you're going to use or need in your installation. Now, the last thing we're gonna show off is the blade, right? Some of these fans have actually reversible blades. What does that mean? So you have this one, which is like a gray color, but if you don't want the gray color, you can reverse it and put this type of color, which is like a wood grain color, okay? So either or you can choose, that is up to your preference. All right, so the next step we're gonna do is to start to assemble the fan before we install it up in the ceiling. First step is you're gonna wanna remove this cotter pin that you have on the fan motor assembly, okay? Now you're gonna take the down rod and you're gonna take your wiring. You're gonna insert your wiring through the down rod. It's gonna be a little tricky. Sometimes you gotta put in a first set of wires, then the second set. Okay. Keep driving the wires all the way to the end. Make sure both of them come out. Here we go. Now you're gonna go ahead, thread that down rod onto the fan motor assembly. Now, really important here is when you put the pin back in place, you have to make sure everything aligns. Down rod aligns. Go. Insert your cotter pin so that it stays in place like so. Okay, that's ready to go. You're going to go ahead, tighten up those set screws again using the correct screwdriver. Okay, there's stem. Now your set screws are in place. Your wires are through here, so we're good to go. After that, you're going to go ahead and insert your coupler, okay? Coupler cover. Again, thread those wires first, like so. Just like that, okay? Then after that, you're going to want to insert the canopy cover, like so, okay? Then after that, you will insert the canopy, okay? All the way down. We're almost done here. So now the next steps, you have to go ahead and use the ball hanger. The ball hanger also has to be threaded with the wires. Sort of like a puzzle, right? You got to take it step by step. In the pin, the security pin, you want to go ahead and insert that. Make sure everything aligns. Bring up the hanger ball. Okay. Now the hanger ball has another set screw. So over here, you're going to go ahead, tighten up that set screw. And with that, basically your fan assembly is ready and set to go. Now we can take this whole assembly up to the ceiling and mount it to the mounting bracket. All right, so the fan motor assembly is assembled. The next step is to take your mounting bracket and install it onto your electrical box. Now remember, we're using here a prop. You would have your drywall in this location, but right now it would be simulating what we spoke about earlier, a new construction. So first step is install your mounting bracket. You're going to use the existing screws that come with your saddle box, which one is here. Slide your mounting bracket on it like so. Take the other screw. Here you can use an electrical battery powered driver or an impact tool like we're using here. Go ahead. And now we're going to screw this into place. Okay, remember, you can use the electrical one or battery powered one to get it started. And then you can use a manual screwdriver to tighten it completely. Okay, So now we're using that manual screwdriver that we were talking about. And early in the workshop, we actually mentioned it, right? You start with the electrical or battery powered screwdriver or driver, and you can finish off with a manual screwdriver to get it nice and tight in its location. And there you go. Mounting bracket is installed. The next step is to take your fully assembled motor and go ahead, thread your wires in. And as you can see, the supporting ball, the hanging ball, is going to fit right on your mounting bracket. Now, once that's in, what you're going to want to do is turn it, turn it, turn it until it clicks in place, like so. Now you know you can let go. That supporting ball is using the bracket to stay in place. It will not fall. Now you can go ahead and wire your fan without any issues. So now that the fan motor assembly is attached to the support bracket, let's talk about wiring. These would be the 3 wires that are coming from your ceiling. You have a black one, which is your power, white, which is your neutral, and then you have a ground bare copper wire, or sometimes a green wire, which will be your ground. So these are the 3 powers that are coming from your ceiling. Now let's talk a little bit about the wires that are coming from the fan. These 2 wires, yellow and green. This yellow and green is the ground for the support bracket, and this yellow-green is the ground for the motor assembly. Now in this case, this fan is a pretty simple install. As you can see, these cables are meant into it's like a quick connect system. You're going to see it pretty soon. That's going to go to our control module. But even though they have that quick connect system, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the colors. Now you see the black or grayish color and red. Those are your power, right? That's coming from the fan. And the blue and white wire will be the wires that are controlling your light kit. All right. So now that the wires are explained, this fan came with a really easy control module. As you can see, the colors of the wires are pretty much the same as the ones on the fan motor assembly. Green and yellow is your ground, black is your power, red is also a power button, not a power button, but a power wire. We'll talk about that a little bit soon. And your white one is neutral. Again, read the instructions to your fan. Every manufacturer may tell you that if you have a light switch with another switch, you're going to have to combine certain wires. All that is explained in your instruction manual. But in our case, we're going to go ahead and start connecting the control module first. Like we said just a minute ago, we have these quick connects here. Very easy. This one only has 2 prongs. The other one has 3 prongs. So can't really get that one wrong, right? This one's 2 prong. We're going to go ahead, insert that. Just like that. Okay. All right. So, and now the other quick connect is right here. It has 3 prongs, 3 prongs. Go ahead and connect that one. Super, super simple. Okay. Now remember, this power module or remote control module, apart from these wires, you're going to see this yellow one. You're probably asking, what's up with this one? It has nothing here to connect to or anything like that. This is your antenna for your remote control. All right. So our specific instructions is calling out and saying that this remote module has to have the flat portion facing the ceiling. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and insert it into the mounting bracket like so. Okay. Now the next steps are going to be grabbing these wires from the remote module and connecting them to your wiring that's coming from the ceiling. So now that we have the fan assembly installed into the mounting bracket, we also have the remote module installed. The next step we're going to do is show you how to wire the remote module to the electricity from your house, which are these 3 cables. Remember, neutral, power, and ground. These are the ones that are coming from your ceiling. These that are attached to the remote module are obviously the ones that are coming from the remote module. You want to connect from the house to the remote module. The best thing you can do here is try to separate the wires like I'm doing here in this case to get you more organized and be easier for you to install. Now, we mentioned earlier in the workshop that we're going to be using wire nuts, which is a tried and true tool. It's worked for decades, possibly a century, but now these new fans are coming in with these type of lever plugs. Really interesting. See, this one has 5 spaces. Okay, some have 3, some have 5. The reason why this one has 5 spaces because you can put in 5 wires at the same time in this same plug. In this case, we're going to use 4 of these spaces for our ground wires. Remember, ground wires are the green/yellow colored wires and also the copper wire that's coming from the house. So let's go ahead and do one by one. First, we're going to start from the cables that comes, right, the wires that come from the house. Here we have the ground. We're going to go ahead and insert wire into the lever. Okay, as you can see that, it's already inserted. And what you're going to do is you're going to go and pull down the lever that's assigned to that specific wire. And you should hear a click like so. Now, after you hear that click, you always want to test that wire. Does it come out? In this case, it's not coming out. It's nice in there firmly, okay? All we need to do now is repeat. Go ahead and grab another green/yellow wire. In this case, I am grabbing the yellow/green wire from the remote module. I'm going to go ahead, insert that. Okay, as you can see, I went ahead. These wires are already pre-stripped, okay? So what you're going to do here is you notice this green/yellow wire is a stranded wire, which means it just has a bunch of little hairs, right? So it's stranded. You're going to take that wire and before you insert it into the plug, give it a couple of twists like so. Makes it more sturdier to go into the plug. That's ready to go. Insert into the next space all the way in and lower down that lever. You heard that click. Test it. That's good to go. So again, rinse and repeat. Here we go again. Now another green wire, green/yellow wire. This is the ground wire that's coming from the mounting bracket. And here we go. Take that already pre-stripped wire, take away out the sheath like we did here. Go ahead, use the wire, give it a couple of twists, make it sturdy, and insert into your plug. Make sure all the way in and lower that level. Bam. Test it. Doesn't want to come out. That's good. Now we're going to take the last ground wire, which is the ground wire that's coming from our, in this case, it's from the ball hanger is where it's coming from. Take out the small sleeve. Twist. Okay. And here we go. Insert into your plug and lower the level. Now firmly in place. All right. So remember, organization is key when you're doing electricity. So move your cables around so that it's easier for you to work in. Got all the green ones done, right? Let's move these out of the way. As you can see, that last one, we didn't use it. So go ahead and just close it. You're good to go. Right. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to use one of our 3-prong plugs that came with the kit. And we're going to put in all of the, let's see, doesn't matter the order, but let's go with neutral wires, okay? There's 2 neutral wires, one coming from your house and one coming from the remote control module. Now, as you can see, the remote control module already has a pre-cut wire. The one from your house doesn't. This is where you're going to use the wire stripper. Remember, these are one of the tools we mentioned in the beginning of the workshop. This is its time to shine, okay? So, wire stripper, very simple. You can use it for 2 things. 1, you can cut wire with this piece, and 2, you can strip the wire. Depending on the size of the wire, in this case, this is probably a 14 gauge wire. You're going to mark it where it says 14. Just grab this wire, 14, put it in the area of 14, close it, okay? You're going to squeeze, and then you give a little tug left and right, and pull. There you go. Stripped wire. And you can begin using that plug and putting in those two wires. Now remember, the one that comes from the module, it's a stranded wire, so you got to go and twist it so that it fits snugly into the plug. And let's start with this one. Go ahead and insert it like so. Lower that level. Nice click. Test. Good to go. One from your house. Insert. Pull down lever. Click. Good to go. Third one we didn't use, so go ahead and close that. And neutrals are done. Again, organization, keep everything to the side. Now, last ones that we have to connect are the power wires. In this case, for this specific setup that we're doing, the two power wires that come from the module are your red and your black, okay? You're gonna put these together. They're all gonna go in that same plug because they're all power. And you're also gonna bring down that power wire coming from your house. Again, using your wire strippers, go ahead and align it with the 14 gauge. 14 gauge, press, left, right, and you pull. And there you go. And begin installing your power wires using your plug. Remember, these are stranded. These are coming from the remote module. You're gonna need these to be nice and sturdy, so give them a couple of twists like I'm doing here. And we're gonna start to assemble this part now. Doesn't matter which one goes first, which one goes second, as long as all the power wires are together. Remember to give that tug. Make sure it's on there nice. Here we go. Check that one. Good to go. And the last one coming from your house. Insert, lever, verify, and we are good to go. All right. So basically, we have all of our power wires are in one plug, all of our neutrals are in one plug, and all of our grounds are in another plug. This is the time where it benefits having the saddle box, because now you're going to be able to, as much as possible, put as many cables as you can up in this space so that you have enough room so that your canopy can then cover all of that wiring, and that's going to be our next step. Okay, now with all the wires connected that we just did, we went ahead and took advantage of this saddle box. Remember, this gives you all that space inside of this saddle box to go ahead and tuck in all those wires in there to get it as best as you can, okay? Just make sure all the wires are really well connected, and if you used wire nuts, go ahead and use electrical tape as well to have that secure connection. Your next step is, once all the wires are nicely tucked in, you're going to use your canopy cover, right, to go ahead and cover all of those wires. And remember, here you would have your drywall, so it would be nice and flush against the drywall. Now, to put up this canopy, you're going to have to remove, as you can see on this mounting bracket, you're going to have to remove completely one of the screws and leave the other in place. Okay? Now, bring up your canopy. Make sure those wires are nicely tucked in there. You don't want to see that. Now you're going to align the canopy with that existing screw. As you can see, they're poking through the canopy cover. Go ahead and turn it. That's going to hold it in place. Now, with that screw that you removed, you're going to reinsert it, align it to the hole, thread it in, and you're going to have your canopy installed. Let's do that now. This is where a manual screwdriver is going to work really well. If you have a shorter one, even better. Take your time here. You're going to have to align it first. Make sure you can start threading it in by hand first. The hardest part here is going to be getting that screw in the hole and start to thread it through. Now we're going to go ahead and start threading it by hand. Okay, like so. In this case, we could have used a smaller one. So now that we have the canopy, installed, you're going to notice these screws. You're going to say, wait a minute, they're not flush against the canopy. That's okay. That's on purpose because that screw, that space that you see there is meant on purpose to fit your canopy cover like so. You're going to bring up your canopy cover. You're going to go ahead and turn it either clockwise or counterclockwise until it falls in place. And now it fell in place and you're going to give it another turn. There you go. And it's in place just like that. All right, now that we have everything installed, the next step is your blades. This is a pretty straightforward installation. You're going to align, choose the color you want of the blade. You're going to align, and you're going to use a long screwdriver in this case to align the holes. Now that you have your fan blades installed, your last step is going to be to put in your light cover. It's a very simple install. Go ahead, align the grooves with the fan, give it a turn until it locks in place, like so. Now that your ceiling fan is installed, this ceiling fan specifically has a pretty cool feature which is called a remote wall cradle. What does that basically do? This piece breaks off into two parts, okay? This piece is going to be attached to your wall switch and it's going to live there. So your switch will always be on. Then this piece is going to go on top of it, like so. So you're going to be able to control the ceiling fan with the remote control all the time. So let's go ahead and install it right now. All right, so the first step you're going to do is go ahead, remove the top screw. Go ahead and remove that bottom screw as well. This is going to go ahead and remove the switch cover. So we got that. You're going to use the provided screws. Insert them into the plate cover. Now remember, we are reutilizing the original plate cover that you already had on your switch. This just lives on top of that switch, okay? You're going to always want to have your switch for your fan in the on position for this specific part. All right, next step is the other plastic piece. Okay, so once both screws are in, feels good. Now we go ahead and install your remote control. But remember, before you do that, always make sure that switch is in the on position. Put your remote control in its location. Now you're going to always be able to control your ceiling fan with the remote. Okay, so now your ceiling fan is installed. Your next step is to turn on that breaker, okay, to test it out. In this case, once it's on, we're going to go ahead and test it out using the remote control. With the remote control, we can turn it on and test out those different fan speeds, low, medium, and high. Make sure everything looks good and the fan does not have a weird vibration or a wobble on the fan. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is warm mode and winter mode, or summer and winter modes. Yes, fans do have summer and winter modes. In this case, this fan, you can change those modes with the control. Other fans, you might notice a switch on the top. That switch is for that summer mode or winter mode. Quickly explained, summer mode turns the fan, giving you that breeze to keep you nice and cool. The winter mode, what it does is it recirculates hot air in your house, right? And it moves it around so that in this case, in winter mode, you don't have to have your heater on such a high setting and you can keep it nice and warm while the heater doesn't have to be on all the time. That's basically it. So really important for energy efficiency, use that winter mode and use that summer mode. Now, with that said, let's head back to the studio. Now, we talked about a lot of information today. We talked about the types of installations and the tools you need for those installations. And we went through step by step on how to install everything. If there were any questions you had that weren't covered in this workshop, you can always email us at workshopslive@homedepot.com. I just want to take a moment and thank you for spending time with me today. So on behalf of myself and the entire Home Depot workshop team, Thank you. We hope that you've gained a little more confidence around tackling some of the projects around your house in order to make it your home. Have a wonderful day and hope to see you in future workshops so we can help you doers get more done.